So today's Ask Reddit thread is Urban Explorers. What is the creepiest we're not alone experience you've had? So we're about to find all the places that we should never go alone right now. Horrible Flesh Eater, that's a terrible name, says, I was on the other end of this. There was an abandoned nunnery on the coast beyond a suburban development. A very creepy but beautiful place. I loved it because it had an entirely stone chapel. Any sound you made inside had a true reverb, an echo a second long almost. I brought in a friend to make some recordings in the dead of the night. As we're leaving, a group of laughing neighborhood kids came in on us, crouched in the dark over a bunch of electronics. They ran faster than I've seen anyone run before. That's kind of funny. New Life New Account says, reminds me of something a similar friend and I experienced. We're going to explore a supposedly haunted slaughterhouse, which in fact is actually an old grain processing plant. It's about a mile walk in a long paved road in the nighttime, but the moon was bright enough for us to see without needing lights. We could see two cell phone lights of people leaving the spot, walking towards us on the road. Friend and I didn't think much of it and kept walking on the road. Two girls, as it turns out, had their phones mostly pointing on the ground as they walked. That meant they didn't see us until we were probably 10 or so feet away from them. Two dudes, walking in the dark towards them, in the middle of nowhere, at a supposedly haunted location. They screamed bloody effing murder. We apologized and told them we're just going to check out the place too. Didn't even cross my mind how creepy that must have seemed to them until we had already scared the S out of them. Whoopsie. At least he was good-spirited. He could have been mean about it and just kept on, trying to scare them after they were already scared, chasing them or whatever, but, whatever. iBooger says, my friends and I were exploring an abandoned restaurant on the beach town one winter night. We snuck through a broken window on the shore side to avoid being spotted by the cars driving by. Overall, inside is just your typical abandoned restaurant, but still really cool to check out. There was a long bar, tables tossed about, etc. We walked downstairs into a wine cellar and started walking through the labyrinth of hallways. The basement was deceptively larger than we would have expected for a beachside restaurant. Anyway, we wandered to this room off one of the hallways. We shine our flashlight in the corner, and we see an unmade bed/cot with all the trappings of someone currently living there. A safety razor next to the mirror, random other belongings. Our stomachs immediately dropped as we realized we were in somebody's living quarters, and promptly noped the F out of there. To this day, we still don't know if the person was hiding in the basement with us, waiting for us to leave, or if we stumbled in on it while they were out and about. Either way, we couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by someone from the shadows of the basement. I feel like a lot of these stories are going to involve just, hey, transients are just living in the area when it's abandoned, and it's they don't want to be bothered, you don't want to bother them, so it's creepy because you don't know, but I mean, scary. Lord Cap Dr. Fire PI says, I thought this was going to be a Goonies reference. Yeah, it sounds like that. I have two arms, got silver for this comment. I should be thankful this is my creepiest story. So I was at an abandoned medical school in a pretty bad city with my friend. My friend told me homeless people squat there, but only on the first floor. She even said if one of her friends sat their backpack down and it had been stolen by one of them in plain sight. Oh, that's terrible. So we avoided it and explored the second floor. We kept hearing random noises like someone loosely following us, so we kept on guard but never saw anything. We were in this room and heard louder noise. Look over and it was just a cat chilling. It was the cat following us all along after stopping to pet it and moving on. It continued following us and making noises we kept hearing. It eventually came right up to us to be pet. I assumed it was a stray and wanted to get help, so we agreed that if it followed us out, we'll take it somewhere or someone who can care for it. It followed us outside, then immediately ran from us when we were like, oh well, guess we got a cat now. So I went to go see where it went, only to see one of the doors to the bando open, and there's a 6-foot+ dude walk out and yelled at me, y'all effing with my cat. I just about soiled myself, thinking I was about to get murdered or something, haha. I was like, oh, is this your cat? And he followed us out. He's like, yeah, it's my cat, Colonel Mustard. Get over here. And the cat comes running to him. He introduced himself and we talked for a bit. He was actually a really cool guy. Said he lives there and studies psychology and stuff to keep occupied. Bonus, here's a picture of Colonel Mustard. I mean, at this point we have to look at Colonel Mustard, right? Oh wow, it's one of those two-faced cats. I forget what they're called, but they're both a black tuxedo cat and like a ginger cat. Really, really cool. Okay, end me, please, end me. Colonel Mustard, conqueror of the deceased doctor. What? Fossil Merrick says, Fossil Merrick, there we go. It was Colonel Mustard in the abandoned medical school with a candlestick. That's a Clue reference, I'm guessing. Alright, almighty Twinterwaffle. The area I'm currently in is a touristy beach place, so being winter, it's completely devoid of life. There's also a lot of apartments, hotels around there with just shelves, no windows or doors. So at 2 a.m. I went to the local garage to grab some smokes as we were running low. It's dead quiet, and you can see the teeniest, tiniest sounds. I was walking past one such building, and when it felt like I was being watched, I looked up and around and couldn't hear or see anything. So I carried on walking slower now, trying to be as quiet as possible while listening for anything strange. Suddenly, every single dog around just went crazy barking. Like dead silence or deafening barking to a second. It made me jump 10 feet, looked up, and on the third floor of an apartment that has no windows or doors put in just a single dog staring at me. I literally turned around and walked straight back home and figured I'd just go at a more reasonable time. Wait, picture of what the building looks like. Okay, so I feel like we're getting so many bonuses right now. What's the building look like? Oh, okay, so it's got like no windows or anything like that put in. It's just, ooh, if there's a dog right there, that'd be terrifying. The Devil's Advocate says, I lived in China for the last 18 years. At night I would get bored and go out riding on my scooter and just explore various roads. This incident was about 14 years ago. There was a place I had been to in the daytime, down a country road that was mostly green hills and forest. Somewhere in there's a little settlement where they were building a whole bunch of new things, including an apartment building that was just 20 stories high. It was a shell, no windows or doors or fittings yet, or even stairs, just concrete for each of the floors and some of the walls. That night I rode past and stopped. There was a bamboo ladders leading up to the first few floors and more bamboo ladders going inside all the way up the building. The entire building was filled with people. There were families too, mom, dad, cooking pots. They even had little fires going and they were cooking. Children and even babies. There were hundreds of people living there, and as I stopped there with the engine running, more and more heads started appearing, people watching me. They were all silent. No one called out. They just looked. So I rode off again and felt spooked. Wait, I don't even... Were they squatters or were they throwing a party? What is going on here? Meep Meep Creep says, reminds me of Spirited Away. Okay. Cleaning Barrett says, and we're cooking children and even babies? That's terrible. Mega's XLRV says, and one of the babies looked at me, just like in The Simpsons with Principal Skinner and Mrs. Krabappel. South NCE says, so there's a moderately well-known abandoned mental hospital close to my town. A few months back, a few friends and I went to go explore a bit. Not a rare thing for people to do here. We found the setup of a few folding chairs and a couple old mattresses with blankets and whatever else you could imagine on them. We chilled there for about 10 minutes and then went on to our adventure upwards. Pretty uneventful from there on. A few really cool graffiti murals. Awesome view from the roof. When we were coming down, we passed through a room and all the chairs are folded up and neatly stacked against the wall, and the beds were made, or at least close to that as it could have been. Whoever done this was likely knowing we were there and waited for us to leave to do all that, as there was only a time frame of about 45 minutes. No threats or anything, just an eerie feeling of being watched in an abandoned mental hospital. Edit, Kings Park Psychiatric Center. I replied to 4 of y'all, and there's like 20 others asking, LMAO. Okay, so if you're still here right now, maybe you're enjoying this video, so consider subscribing down below. I'm not trying to panhandle subscribers and comments, but I mean, at this point, I guess I am. So let's just get back into it, but please consider it. Russo for Senate says, oh man, haha, my ex-girlfriend, a friend of hers, and I did the same exact thing, also while exploring an abandoned psychiatric hospital. In our case, we heard a group of teenagers coming in as we were on our way out and decided to have a little fun with them. Oh. We waited for them to pass through a classroom that you couldn't avoid due to structural damage in the corridor, and really quickly lined up the desks so it had been sort of scattered around the room. I wish we stuck around to see how they responded, but her friend had to go home. Okay, people just messing with each other, like very harmless fun. Pup HD says, I've only been brave enough to do the urban exploration once, well twice I guess, but the same location both times. Near an apartment I used to live in, there was an old hotel that was abandoned and boarded up. One night a friend was over and hanging out with me. We had a few drinks, and in a moment of inebriated bravado, a little tipsy but not fall down drunk at all, we decided that exploring the hotel would be a brilliant idea. We made our way over and explored a couple of the rooms. The doors were on the outside, so it may have been a motel rather than a hotel. I'm not sure the difference. The rooms were moldy, dirty, broken down, but it didn't have anything unexpected. There was some graffiti on the walls and some used condoms on the ground, in the rooms. Then we went to the office lobby area. As soon as we walked in, we froze. There in the distance, in the darkened lobby, was a man staring at us. He didn't move, just stood there and stared us down. We bolted, quickly, ran a full sprint back to my apartment. Thankfully, the man, homeless, drug addict, we don't know, didn't follow us. A few days later, my friend was back during the day. We were talking about the experience with the hotel, and this time, spurred on by daylight, decided to go look for the hotel lobby again. Oh no. When we entered, the man was still there, standing in the same spot, staring us down, made of cardboard. We got freaked out about a cardboard cutout hawking the hotel's website and online bookings. But hey, truth be told, anybody would have been terrified if they came across a freaking silhouette of a person staring at them in an abandoned building. Kraken Warg says, so I take out a lot of the time lapses of nature and stuff. One clear night I decided to drive out the middle of nowhere to get a time lapse of the stars. I found a lake that seemed like a cool spot to shoot and set up. About 20 minutes I hear a noise and look up to see the light above me. Sure enough, a drone is right above me just hovering. It freaked me out, so I booked it out of there. I later learned I was trespassing on government property. Oh, jeez. But it would be even worse if there was like a laser pointer on him too. A.com said, how did you figure out you were on government property? Cyborg 127, likely scenario, the drone got license and plate details, and they were contacted later on by some official to query their business in the area, or they looked up the location they were at to find where the drone might be around. Just a guess. Yeah, I'm not trying to like jump on this guy right here saying he's a liar outright. It seems kind of plausible that you would find out that there was a government area later on. That's a clever name, says, there's an old flour mill on Harbor Island in Seattle. It's an abandoned and locked up for a while. My buddies went through a pretty serious Urban X phase near the end of high school, so we were going through all sorts of weird and interesting places in the area, just checking it out. Got chased by cops a few times, the usual stuff. Anyways, inside the flour mill, we're working through some regular block areas, and our buddy swears he heard something. We all dropped dead in our tracks, lights pointed down, just listening. The amount of noise a dilapidated building makes when you're trying to be as quiet is amazing. Constant creaking and wind noises. Then I start to hear it. It was shuffling. The sound of someone dragging something across concrete. Oh no. At this point I can hear my heart jumping out of my chest, the blood pulsing in my ears and my head. I'm hyper aware as I try to pinpoint the sound and associate it with something I knew. By the time we're sure it's not just the wind, we've all heard noises. There are about 5 of us in there, and we're starting to think it's coming from near the stairs. We slowly, achingly creep our way over to the broken glass and dirt. When we came up on the stairwell, we shined our lights down, up to the adjacent landings on the floor we're on, and couldn't see anything. My buddy turns around, steps on an old water bottle on the ground, making the loudest cracking bottle sound he has ever made in the history of recyclables. One of my other friends, looking back down on the factory area we came through, startled, and yells F at the sound of the water bottle. We immediately heard the most chilling deep scream. At that instant, we just put the gas on and ran the F out. At the bottom of the stairwells, we ran into 10 homeless people who weren't there before, but we paid them no mind and didn't stop our dead sprint until we got back to our cars. We figured it had been some homeless person we scared without creeping around, then some expletive. But we never saw the person identify the sound. Who knows? Enemy says, the water bottle was a homeless man's Horcrux. Unexpected Harry Potter. So, I mean, I feel like we got a lot of the same story over and over where they just kind of stumbled upon a homeless encampment. So it wasn't actually anything creepy, but it probably startled them in the moment. But, I mean, this all would, like, I pass no judgment on any of these people here on AskReddit because it's just... It's terrifying enough to be in those areas, and if you see something that's unexplained or unexpected, it's actually going to make your heart rate go way up. So if this made your heart rate go way up, please subscribe down below. Check out that video over there, but also comment something that you saw that was kind of scary or anything that would be a Reddit thread that you want me to cover, or something you want me to do differently or think that I could do to change to make the channel more entertaining for you.